So welcome everybody to day 3. So day 3 of the 5-day challenge to go from chaos to clarity. And hopefully by now, if you've been watching the videos and you've been staying tuned, I noticed that a lot of you are watching on the replay. So thank you. I check YouTube every now and then and see that you're jumping on. So that's super cool. Even if you are on the replay, post your questions up or message me direct if if it's something that's sort of private that you want an answer to. I'm here for you this week. So and today we're going to, yesterday we looked at beliefs, the day before we looked at values, and today we're going to start to tie all this together by looking at your goals and how to use those other things to your best advantage to pull it all together. By the end of today, I would anticipate that you would start to have some clarity around maybe why goals haven't worked out in the past. And then you'll go, oh, well, some of them have and some of them haven't. And you'll start to see a lot clearer about why some have and why some haven't. So thanks as well to everyone that posted up limiting beliefs last night. I had a function on last night, and then as I was saying before we hit record, I had a sick bubba last night, up with a fever all night. So I'm not on my A game today. I'm just going to make that confession straight up. So those that are live, pull me up. If you need any questions, if there's anything that I haven't explained properly, I need your help, okay? It takes a village to raise a child, and you guys need to help me right now. So let's get stuck into today, okay? Now, first of all, before we delve into today's topic, let's just do a quick recap. And for those that are just tuning in for today and haven't been on the other ones, or sometimes we just need a little bit of extra time to go over things. So while I'm getting into that, those that are on the call right now, did anybody have any insights or realizations last night when they were doing the challenge, or even just looking over the videos? Did anyone here have anything that they would share with us? Beck? Awesome. Here, can you unmute yourself from your end? Yeah. Hi, Beck. How are you?
Good. Yeah, so I've realized that my family value has been challenged, and it's being challenged by my children, and that's what's been sort of spiraling me into chaos a bit. So they're getting to be teenagers and independent young adults, so that's a bit of a transition time for me. So it spun me in a bit of a how do I deal with this? So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good insight. And the thing is, sometimes then you can just go, oh, that's why I'm feeling stressed.
Yeah, exactly. Now I know I can deal with it.
Yeah, perfect. Because when you don't know what you don't know, and then you're like, why am I stressed?
Yeah.
I was having a chat to a client yesterday on the phone, and she was just like, I just feel anxious and I don't know why. And I said, well, just stop for a moment and just ask yourself, is it because there's a lot of unknowns for you out in the world right now? And she went, yeah, that's it. Just that awareness. She said, I just feel like that's it. And like she actually just felt it fall away. So yeah, sometimes just that awareness is huge. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Thanks for sharing. Is there anyone else that had any awareness? So now at least, Beck, you know what to do with that. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about how to actually start like working on those triggers. Tomorrow's going to be huge, because as I said yesterday, if you want to know your purpose, there's two parts to it. If you want to know what your purpose is, who here would like to know their purpose or gain some clarity on it? Yeah, that's usually a pretty big thing for most people that jump on this call. If you want to know your purpose, it's really a two-part process, and that is get to know your values, okay, and clear out your past trauma. Okay, that's like as a basic thing. Obviously, there's there's a web that sort of goes with each of those things. There's different paths that you can take that, but know your values, clear out your past trauma, and the two come together like magic. I mean, Beck, you're an example of that, aren't you? Remember when we first started? Would you mind sharing, just like quick? You don't have to go into all the details if you don't want to, but would you mind sharing with us what happened, what your experience was when you cleared out some past stuff, and how that helped you with your purpose and your vision?
It definitely helped my health. I was just constantly getting migraines, and I had quite a lot of stuff to clear out, partly to do with my mother. So I had a few mum issues that needed to clear out, and a lot to do with finances as well. So, and in clearing all that out, like I've got a small mortgage, but I've got no debts, and I was maxed out on my credit cards. I was just, every time I went to the shop, I had to check my bank balance before I went to the supermarket. Have I got enough to pay for the food? I haven't had to do that in about over a year. It's so nice. It's taken a while because I kept having to come back to it, but yeah, and my health is a lot better. So
okay, yeah. And what about when it came, because when I first met you, you were sort of you weren't so I met Beck she says, oh, it took a long time, but I mean, geez, it could have taken decades. I think you've done amazing. When I first met you, you were, what were you doing? You were doing a lot of different things and your health was kind of suffering, but now what are you doing?
I was doing a lot of things. I was doing 3 different jobs. I was to try and make ends meet. I was doing a lot of different things, and I'm a single mum as well, so that doesn't help, being busy. And I just had this really big dream that I wanted to take over the place where I was working and transform it. So I was working as a volunteer at a reptile park, and now I'm part owner, and we've had a name change, and it's just it's going places, and it's just amazing. So circumstances just changed once I sorted out my shit.
Amazing. So Beck basically cleared out her past trauma, went from being a volunteer and not getting paid to now owning the business that she wanted. So
yeah.
That's oh, that, I don't know about you guys, I love that story. I think that's super cool. So thanks for sharing that. So there we go. There's like a real example of what happens when you clear out your trauma. And I'll share another story with you a bit later on today. Remind me, I'm going to write that down, about someone else that I worked with that cleared out her trauma and how crystal clear her vision became. And she's another one that's living proof of how this works. It's consistent. It's a universal law. So it's not like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Each time you clear out stuff from your past, you just get a little bit clearer each time, just a little bit clearer. And then all of a sudden, I think there's a tipping point for most people where all of a sudden the stuff that's in the back is no longer the predominant driving force, or no longer the thing that's having the greatest influence. And whether that can be a fear that you're trying to avoid, and that you're not leaning into, is actually running your life. Okay, so we'll be talking about how to clear out fears tomorrow. But if you've got stuff in your background that you're like, don't want to think about it, don't want to talk about it, definitely don't want to talk about it in public, then that actually has control over you, but you're making an excuse why it doesn't. Okay, so that's a big reality pill to swallow. That's a hard one to swallow for most people. I know that's been a hard one for me to swallow. But anything that you're fearing, anything that you don't want to look at, that's still, it's got an element of control over your life, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. Okay, so thank you for sharing that, Beck. Okay, so just a quick recap. Get to know your values. That's super important. I know that lots of you have started posting them up. We all have a hierarchy of values. Okay, when our values are supported, we label something as good. When our values are challenged, we label something as bad. It's that simple. So support good, challenge bad, in a nutshell. Okay, but when you start to gain clarity about how this all serves you, and you can see your purpose and your vision, and when that becomes the predominant voice in your life, not the external noise, not the family, not the partner, not the media, not the community. When your vision on the inside becomes the predominant voice, that's when you begin to master your life. When you're in that space as well, you'll be willing to embrace pain as well as pleasure in order to achieve your goal. Okay, you'll be willing to embrace both sides. Okay, not try to just do one side. Okay. And you've started to master things. And tomorrow, when we talk about how to clear out fear and guilt and shame, those are really the 3 key emotions that I find will get you there. When you can learn those 3 simple tools, I'll be explaining how to do that tomorrow. But for anyone here that really wants like accountability and wants to really, really get this, like if you're super keen, like for many of you, this course will be more than enough. Like I'm totally on board with that. But if anyone does want to take it further, there are still, I think there's 5 spots left in the next 10 weeks of wisdom. I'm only taking on 10 people in that course because my highest value is my kids. Okay, that's the reason why that I'm severely limiting it. So if anyone does want to know about that, is there anyone that's kind of interested in that's here, that just might want to know a bit more? I'll share a bit later. Let's just get in today because I know it's not for everyone. So I'll share a bit about it with you a bit later. Okay, so that's your values. That's why your values are key. Now, also, when we're living in our highest values, that's when we're satisfied, we feel inspired. Life is in the zone, like life feels like it's in flow. And I'm sure that you've all been there before, and maybe you're like, how did I get there? And how do I get back? Well, this is a simple formula that gives us a strategy on how, where it doesn't matter if you're out here, because when you're out here, that's exhausting. Now, if there's a virus going around, the thing that we all need to be aware of is that you don't want to be living out here. Okay, because when you're out there, you're putting your body under stress. Okay, you're putting your physiology under stress. And what happens, science has proven this. Who here has had a stressful week and then caught a cold or got the flu? Has that ever happened to you? Of course. And who here, like, have you ever, in the reverse, have you had it where you're like, where you're well rested, you're eating well, like you're, really like on purpose with something, and others around you are getting sick and you kind of just dodge this bullet? Has that happened in reverse? I've had that. Sherry's like, no. That's okay. Appreciate your honesty. But it does happen in reverse as well. It does happen in reverse. And so when you can actually hang out more in that zone, okay. Now, disclaimer, when you learn this stuff, you're still going to have moments that stretch you out here. The difference is you're not going to spend the majority of your life out here. And I know personally in my own life, the way that I approach this is at the very end of each day, I have a ritual. As I'm taking off my makeup and brushing my teeth, I scan my day for anything that gave me the shits. And I do this process, simple. And then I go to bed not carrying today's crap into tomorrow. Sometimes I forget to do it. And those are the nights that I don't have a restful sleep. End of story. Like it's kind of that simple. And the more you do it, the other thing is you're also training your brain. You're starting to train your brain on how to actually start to see the other side and see things from a more balanced perspective, and see that's stressing me because it's challenging my values, like Beck did. That's stressing me because it's challenging my values. That's all. I can look for the other side. We take in 3 billion bits of information per second, and you're only aware of 40 bits of information per second. So statistically, the story you are telling yourself is not even true. Now, this doesn't mean that we just spin ourselves another fantasy, but we approximate truth when we can balance it out, when we can see both sides of the equation, okay, then we're not ruled by our emotions and the animal mind. So this is the animal mind, and this is the angelic mind. So you can all become angels. How beautiful is that? It's so lovely. Okay, so that's values. Belief systems, okay. Belief systems and values, if they're not in harmony, they will do this, and you will cue in a conflict. Okay, if you've ever had to make a decision and you felt conflicted, and it can be as simple as someone asking you to do something and you don't want to do it. Does anyone ever had that, where someone's asked them to do something and they're like, oh, I don't want to do it, but I feel obliged? That's belief systems coming up against value systems, because you know what's authentic for you, but you have a belief that you don't want to disappoint that other person, or that maybe you're subordinating that they're more important. So that's another one. I mean, that's happened to all of us, I think. I know it's happened to me. So when our belief systems are out of sync with our values, there'll be conflict in the form of inner conflict, usually, sometimes external conflict, depending on how long you've allowed it to fester. So belief systems. Now, I did say to Cherie and Nadia that we would have a look at a couple of your belief systems. I did see that you posted them up, but I haven't written them down. So at the end of today, we'll table that for the end of today. And we'll just see how long today's call goes for, if we sort of schedule it maybe for before tomorrow morning, or we'll do something anyway. We'll do something important. Okay, so belief systems. Now, belief systems come generally from two places. My experience, they might come from more than this, but in my experience working with, like hundreds and hundreds of people around belief systems, like, we'd be getting up towards the 1,000, I reckon, by now, specifically with belief systems, is that they come from two places. It's either just something that you've absorbed from growing up in the environment that you grew up in. So the number one place that you can look for limiting belief systems is in your parents. Whatever challenge you're having right now, what did your parents believe about family? What did they believe about money? What did they believe about, career, about health? All of these things, like you absorb some of that just by osmosis, and you won't even necessarily be aware. But when you can kind of become aware of where that's coming from, you can, first of all, in order to do something about the things that aren't working, you've got to have the courage to delve into it and have the awareness of it. And it's confronting sometimes. I get it. The other place that it comes from is big traumatic events. If you remember, I was sharing the story about Sophia yesterday, who had the gun pointed in her back. And, that belief was exams are basically life or death. And her physiology stepped in to get her to avoid doing it. And it wasn't until she came and saw the big picture on how it was serving her that she was able to transform through that. So that's where beliefs come in. Now, when it comes to changing beliefs, there's also two ways that I've found. Okay. Now, often just having the awareness of it, you can do something about it. I've watched people that just that is an aha moment in itself. Okay. Did anyone have that as they're writing out their beliefs? Did anyone have like that aha moment of, oh yeah, I don't need to carry that one in. I can actually just delete that one. I don't need that one anymore. That's beautiful when you have that. And those are the ones that are so ready to pop. So that can be the first way. I do use I'm a Psych K practitioner. If anyone is up to, follows the work of Bruce Lipton. Does anyone know about his work? Yeah, few couple of hands. His work's super cool. His book, The Biology of Belief, I love that book. For anyone that's interested in the mind-body connection, he's got a scientific background around, scientific explanation from it. But there's a process called Psych K, which he's, very much involved in, and I'm a advanced practitioner in that as well. And I find that's very good for beliefs. Sometimes, so awareness is the first step, Psych K is the second, and then if things still haven't kind of changed, that's when we delve into some serious, like, dark and dirty mindset work, where we find out exactly what's going on. Like, why are you holding on to this? Where are the payoffs? What's really going on for you? And so that's when we start to look at really clearing out the emotional attachment that you've got to those beliefs. Okay, because some of them are just sitting there, but some of them you've emotionally invested in them. Those ones are going to just require a little bit more focus and work to shift, but still totally doable. Okay, so that's beliefs. Today we're looking about goals. Okay, that is the foundation for goals, because if you've got goals that are out of wait. Let's go into the 3 fantasies. Okay, so today's challenge is going to be writing out. I just want you to write out 3 goals. There might be things that you're already focusing on at the moment, but I just literally want you to write them down tonight for your challenge. Just write out 3. Let's keep it simple. You can do more if you want to, or you can just do 1 if that's all you'd like to focus on. But let's just say make 3 kind of like the benchmark. Now, there are 3 fantasies when you're setting goals that just completely sabotage your efforts. And I'm going to expose these 3 fantasies, because now, from this point forward until the end of your life, you have this checklist. Each time you set a goal for yourself, I want you to call you out on yourself and just run through this checklist and ensure that you are not kidding yourself. Okay? Can everyone commit to doing that for the rest of their life. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. So what they are, the number one is that you've set a value, you've set a goal that is, it's a fantasy. Okay. It's one-sided. Okay. You've set a goal that is one-sided. So I had a 7 a.m. client this morning, and she was telling me, she said, oh, I'm trying to support my staff in, achieving their goals. And so I sit down and I did, help them set their goals. And one of my staff members wants to lose weight. She wants to get fit. But then I see her coming in and just bringing so much junk food into the office each day. And I just think, do you really want this? So that's a perfect example of, you've set a goal, but it's a fantasy. You only want it if it's easy. Okay. So if you've set a goal, when you're checking off your goals tonight, if you only want it if it's easy to achieve, okay, then it's not a real goal. Okay. If you only want it if it's up here, if it supports you, if it's nice and easy, I only want financial freedom if I can get it by winning the lottery. I only want to lose weight if I don't have to change any of my habits, like all of that sort of stuff. I only want a relationship if they're always lovely to me and supportive, and we never have any arguments. Can you see how this plays out? Any single goal. And I'm sure if you scan, I know if I'm honest, and if I scan my goals, I've had goals throughout my life that are fantasies, that I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love that, but I'm not prepared to do any work for it. So check, am I willing to embrace the equal amount of pain to pleasure? Okay, the equal amount of challenge as to support. And if the answer is yes, you are totally on track. Okay, you're on track. That's a goal that you have a chance of achieving. Okay, so that's the number one fantasy. The number two fantasy is that it's not in alignment with your values. Okay, if it's not in alignment with your values, then you have a fantasy. Okay, so let's just say, for example, if your highest value is family, and you have a goal of starting a business, and there feels like there's a misalignment, your number one value will always win. Okay, your number one value will always win, unless you're aware of it and you know how to link them together until they feel like they're one and the same. Okay, because let's just use that as an example. If you've got a goal of having a business, but your family is the number one value, the second that your family is having a crisis, you have a sick kid, any of that, you'll push that to one side. Okay, who's ever done that before? Pushed a highest value aside for a second highest value. Okay, now there is a way of linking them. Okay, so if your goal is not in alignment with your top three values, be honest. Do I really want this, or am I just subordinating and injecting what I think I should be achieving right now? Okay, make sure that it's your goal. Make sure that the feeling, and the way that you can check off with this is get into the felt sense. Imagine that you've achieved that goal. How does it feel? Does it feel kind of empty and you just want to tell others to seek their approval? Or does it feel satisfying and fulfilling? Like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, I've done it. How cool is that? So check in with your felt sense. Like, your physical body will help you gauge where you sit with this. Now, it doesn't mean if you've got a goal that's in alignment with your second or third value, there is a process whereby you can link them together. So my values used to be career and then family. Now that I've got small children, I know that will change when they're teenagers or when they're sort of, upper primary school. But at the moment, when you've got a 10-month-old baby, that's your highest value often. Not for everyone, but for me, it is. And so as I'm working, the first thing is I'm really clear with myself and realistic about what I can achieve in the time that I've got. Okay, I don't have a fantasy around that. I know I'm not about to, become John DeMartini or Tony Robbins or any of those overnight, because I just simply don't have the hours to invest into it. So I'm realistic about that. The next thing is I linked how, and I think I literally sat down at my keyboard and came up with about over 100 links as to how working in my business, served me as a mother and served my children. And I got to the point where I was like, tears, inspired, and I just was like, there's no separation. So when I work here right now, when I'm with you, even despite the fact that I've got a sick child downstairs with my mother, there is zero guilt. Okay, that's gone. So if anyone's got any mother's guilt, does anyone here have kids that they've ever had mother's guilt around? Beck's like, yeah, okay. Make sure you're on tomorrow, okay? Because I'm going to talk about how to get rid of guilt. There's such a debilitating emotion, and geez, it will keep you stuck. So that's one way that you can do it with your goals, that you may ensure that it is either congruent with your highest value or linked to your highest value. Because if it's not, the second that your highest value pokes its head up, you'll push that one to the side. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Do you all get what I'm saying here? Okay, cool. If you've got any questions about that, just stop me, because this is super important. Okay, the next one is the third fantasy. You can be willing to embrace pain and pleasure. Okay, you can have that goal tightly aligned with your values. But the third fantasy is, if you don't have a strategy, it is still a fantasy. If you haven't actually sat down and started to work out the process of how am I going to achieve this? How am I going to get that business up and running? How am I going to, eat, if health is your goal, what is my eating plan? What is my exercise schedule? If you have just left it if you've just left it out there for chance, you might get there, but it's highly likely that you won't. Okay, so checking off those three things. I mean, I know that as I'm saying this, I'm seeing the nods, and I know that this makes sense to you. And sometimes if you were sitting down with a friend having a coffee, you'd probably just rattle this off naturally. But when it's ourselves, sometimes it's hard to see our own stuff, right? Like sometimes it's super hard to see what's going on within ourselves. So this checklist will allow you to get super honest with yourself and just go, okay, is this a real goal or is this a fantasy? Oh, Beck's just off to feed the crocodiles. I've never had that before. How bizarre. Beck has a reptile park. I'm still yet to go down there. She lives down in Margaret River, which is the southwest of Western Australia. So yeah, she's now part owner in a reptile park. How bizarre. So yeah, yesterday when I was using that example of the snake, she was like, that's not scary for me. For those that saw the replay. Okay, so was that what I just shared with you? Was that, did that make sense? Does that feel helpful to everyone here? Yeah. Okay, cool. Any insights on that? Any insights for anyone that they would like to, any aha moments or anything that they'd like to share? No, you're still absorbing it, taking it in. That's fine. But use this tonight when Nadia's got something to share. When you're doing your 3 goals tonight, please, you'll need to unmute yourself, Nadia. When you're doing your 3 goals tonight, just check over them. Just check over them. Don't edit them. You don't need to edit them and go, oh, they don't fit congruent, because if they're not, I can help you bring them in. I think today I've given you some strategies on how to bring them into alignment. Yeah. Do you all feel confident that you now know how to actually bring them into alignment? Yeah, cool. I'm seeing nods around the room. Nadia, yes.
So I'm wondering if this is, I don't know if this is the right example, but if you're in a relationship, so you have a value of valuing yourself, okay? But if you're in a relationship, and a relationship is a high value for you, but if you're in a relationship that you perceive is not what you want, is that a matter of kicking out one value for another? Or is that just you know what I'm saying? Like if it would be like an abusive relationship or something like that, right? So I'm saying it doesn't even have to be that. I'm just saying that you know that you want to be happy, and it has to be somebody that treats you with respect, and you have room to be yourself and stuff like that, right? And then if you have a relationship that isn't that, but yet you still highly value a relationship. But is that a choosing thing, or is it you're pushing out one value over the other?
Okay. I think I understand the question, and I'm just going to explain something and let me know if this kind of answers where you're at. When it comes to relationships, the first thing is to ensure that you don't have a fantasy about what a relationship is. Because in any relationship, we're going to have times when we're respectful, and we are going to have times when we're disrespectful, maybe not necessarily on purpose. Okay. I know, within my marriage, I know that we have times when we're very respectful of each other. And I know times, for example, my husband this morning, he walked out the door. He was obviously focused on work and he forgot to say goodbye. We still haven't spoken on the phone, but like, I perceive that as being disrespectful, So first of all, there's both sides. Okay. It's ensuring that you're realistic. Now, to the degree that you are seeking a fantasy. Now, this is important. Write this down if you've got a pen handy, people. To the degree that you are seeking a fantasy and trying to avoid a pain, you will attract the other side to snap you back into the middle. Okay. So if you are one-sided in your pursuit, if you are one-sided in your pursuit of what a relationship means, if you just want the good times and you're trying to seek that fantasy, you will attract the other side. You will attract the other side. Okay. It's a universal principle. I didn't make this one up. Okay. This is a universal principle because it's attempting, this is mental health working perfectly for you. It's attempting to break your fantasy, because if you spend your life up here, okay, that is not mental health. Okay. If you're trying to go there, because what happens, you will attract the other side to balance out your perception. Okay. You will always have both sides in your perception. Okay. If you go off here without having this down here to balance, you're into delusional zone, and that's actually not the area that I work in. By the time people are delusional and they're in a fantasy land, la la land. But if you're living in an experience where you're seeking one side but you're attracting the other, first of all, well done, because your mental health is on board, and you've actually seeked out their circumstances that you require to get you back to the center. So that would be the first thing, just to check off with yourself that you're not one-sided in your pursuit. And often people are often people go, great, can you help me attract a partner? Yes, of course I can. What do you want? And they give me this big wish list, and I'm like, okay, now write down the opposite side of it. I want them to be, respectful, funny, spend time with me. Okay, write out the other side, because you're going to have times when they're disrespectful. You're going to have times when they don't have a sense of humor. You're going to have times when they don't put you first and they don't have time for you. Let's be realistic. Are you willing to embrace both sides of that? Are you willing to embrace both sides? And the relationships that thrive are the ones that do that. You won't show me a couple that's been together long term that hasn't had to embrace both sides of each other. That's true love. That's infatuation. Embracing both sides is true love. Okay, that's true authentic love, because you've seen the dark side of that person, but you're still with them. Okay, and you're still prepared to move through that. So that's the first thing. The second part to your question is if you're in a relationship and you're putting their values on a pedestal and putting your values in the pit, and kind of looking up to them, that what they want is more important than what you want, you will be walking on eggshells. Okay, that is not a balanced relationship. That is not in fair exchange. Okay, the overdog will swallow up the underdog, and eventually the underdog will become obsolete in that relationship. Okay, that's really what it does. Anyone ever seen this play out in their life? The overdog will swallow up the underdog, and they will be the ones that get spat out of the relationship. They get treated like shit, and then they get spat out. Okay, because who wants to be in a relationship with an underdog? Somebody that's like, yes, all the time, and really trying to be the people pleaser. And to a degree, again, the universe is conspiring to get you to live authentically. Okay, the universe is conspiring to get you to live authentically, to find your your purpose, and to not be the underdog, and vice versa, not be the overdog. Like neither of those out there is not authentic. We all spend moments out there. I mean, who here spent times as the overdog and sometimes as the underdog? Come on, tell the truth. I know I have, I mean, even within my marriage right now, we have weeks where I'm the bossy bitch, and where other times when I'm on eggshells, and vice versa, like we kind of oscillate, but it's about finding that middle ground. So yeah, when you're the overdog, you're projecting your values onto the other person and making your values right, theirs wrong. Okay. And you'll be like quite dominating, people, you throw around the term narcissist. But also the narcissist is there also to help the victim step into their power. Okay. But if you can't see how it's playing out, I mean, I don't know about you, but I know in my relationship, when my husband tries to pull that shit on me, what it does is it fires me up and gets me really angry, and it gets me to put things in place. So we're going to be in that zone, whether you like it or not. Like, it fires me up. It gets me to stand up for myself. Okay. But if you miss that message, you'll keep going further and further and getting more and more polarized. Okay. So if you've got a value on relationship, okay, if you truly have a value on relationship, it means that you will embrace pain and pleasure, but not by sacrificing your authentic self, by actually moving into your authentic self, having those difficult conversations, working through things together. And if you're with somebody that just wants to be the narcissist and projects their values onto you, and you step into your power, two things will happen. The relationship will find another homeostasis. Like, it'll find like it's, like all systems are actually trying to find balance at any given time. So it'll do two things. You'll find that balance, okay? And you also have times where you oscillate, or you'll naturally move away from each other. Okay, because maybe if that person really just wants to be the overdog and dictate the terms all the time, if that's where they're at on their journey, then you're probably not compatible if you're looking for a more authentic experience. So I hope does that answer your question, Nadia? Does that give you some insight? No, it didn't. I can tell it didn't. Was it valuable for everyone else? Because I think
the whole thing was valuable. Yeah, that was
okay.
Valuable.
Yeah. So have a look. The other thing as well is that have a look as well what it is that you want from a relationship. Like if I was suggesting an exercise that you could do, it would be have a look at what you want from a relationship, why you want that from a relationship, and how you can actually provide that for yourself. Okay, how you could actually provide that for yourself. Okay, because the relationship where you are, the relationship, it's no different to, like, a relationship is a contract, right? It's a social contract, whether we like it or not. And so let's look at contracts as such. Let's look at, say, if you're going to the bank for a loan for a home. I'm going to just use this analogy. Let's just say you're going to the bank for a loan. You go to the bank and you say, okay, I want to buy this house. It's worth $500,000. It's been valued at $500,000, and can I please have a loan? And they'll go, sure. They might put you through some other things, but they'll go, yeah, sure, no problems. Like, here's the money. We can see that you can pay it off. It's, it's a good deal for us because the home is worth that, and that's fine. So can you see that the value meets value? When you've owned the value, when you've sort of like owned that this house is worth that much, and you're requesting that much, that's in fair exchange, that matches. Okay. And the same is with a relationship. When you come to a relationship, so let's just peel that back for a moment. If you went to the bank and you said, I want to borrow $500,000 for this house. I really want this house. It's for sale for $500,000, and that's why I want it. But the valuations only come in at $250,000, but they want 500. So I would like 500 because I want this house. What's the bank going to do? It's going to say, no, this is not a good deal for me. Like, we're not going to lend you the money. Okay. And it's the same in relationships. the value that you bring to the table will be matched and reflected in the other person. So the greatest thing that you can do in a relationship that's not working for you right now is to do the inner work. Okay, rather than trying to tell, project, you should, this should, we need to work on this, we need to work on that. Do the inner work in yourself first. Own your value. Okay, resolve your stuff. I know in my own life, I know I've seen how this has played out. I've had times just, sharing with you all. I remember once years ago when I first discovered this work, and I've had this massive fight with my husband, and I'm like, this is not good. And I sort of had the awareness of get out. And I went, look, can we just talk about this later? And I was so fuming. I really was feeling like I was down there, that he was projecting his values. So I came up to my office exactly where I'm sitting right now. I got out my pen and paper. Okay. I did the inner work on it. I processed it using the processes that I'm going to show you tomorrow. And I remember at the end having this massive insight. And when I went downstairs, he goes, I was just thinking about what we were talking about. And he literally repeated verbatim what I had just written down on my paper. And I was like, holy shit, this stuff works. Welcome to the Twilight Zone, people. So inner work will help you own your value so that you can bring your value to the table and have a relationship that's in fair exchange. Okay. And so that you're not sacrificing yourself in a relationship. There will be times where, we all have times when we sacrifice ourselves in a relationship, but we also have times in a relationship where the other person sacrifices as well. It's ensuring that that's a dance that feels like it's in fair exchange, that it's not always one person giving, and the other one taking. Okay. Does that answer things a little bit clearer, Nadia? Yeah.
I think it was better than I was actually just trying to figure out about, is it because of your values that you decide to push away one or thing or not, the relationship thing, if it doesn't match your values, of somebody empower, like you're trying to be self-empowered and the other person is treating you like shit, maybe, right? So then you're like, okay, so am I doing that because it just doesn't match my values, or but it's more than that. It is. It's more than that.
I think it's a very big question. It's about increasing your self-worth and also acknowledging that you will generally attract somebody that has the opposite value system to you. Okay, you're not going to attract someone that has the same value system as you. Otherwise, how boring would that be? How are you going to grow and evolve if you both have the exact same values? Like my husband, he has a value on cars and sport and socializing. I have a value on personal development and mindset work and meditating. How polar opposite is that? And how bored would I be if I was with someone that had the same values? Also, nothing would get done. So the other thing as well is the other thing that you can do is work out what your partner's values are and link how their values are serving you. Because I know in the beginning that used to annoy me that we had such differing values. I can now see how it's serving me. I don't resent his values now. I honor and respect them because I can see how they're serving me. I mean, how cool is it when he's watching sport, I can just leave the kids with him and go off and do the stuff that's important to me. Winning, So it's about looking at it from a different perspective. But you will generally, who is in a relationship that has a partner that has the opposite values to them? Yeah. Okay, cool. So there we go. That's consistent. That's consistent. So thank you for bringing that up. And have a think about that and let me know how you go with that tomorrow. Does that make a bit more sense to you, Nadia?
Yeah, I don't think it's a simple answer. I don't think it's just about values. I think that that wasn't a good example of trading one value for another.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Because I want to be in a relationship, right? And at the same time, I also want to be able to be myself. So in a relationship where I can't do the things that I need to do to feel whole, do I just pass on the relationship then? That's you know, that's what.
That's that's probably something that we'd need to you know, probably it's a question that's bigger than the amount of time that I have right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not simplistic to one, to just the which value is taking precedence over the other one. It's more than that.
And to answer, just you know, just in summary, a relationship, you don't need to have either being authentic to yourself or giving to the relationship. It doesn't need to be either or. You can have both. Okay, you can have both. And if a relationship is going to go the distance, yeah, it's about finding how you can have both. Because if you have to sacrifice for someone else, you'll do it for a period of time, but that's not sustainable. Okay, that system is not sustainable. If one is constantly sacrificing and the other one is taking, that is not a sustainable system. Okay, it needs to oscillate. You need to go in and out. This is the rhythm of the universe. Okay, your relationship will do this. We do this when we breathe. This is how all systems pulsate. They go in and they go out. We go into chaos, we go into order, chaos, order. If you're feeling like you're in chaos all the time, that system is breaking down. Okay. It's the law of heuristic escalation, is that all systems will find a way, like, you know, they will go into balance. You know, they will find a way to go into balance. And when something is isolated and not being authentic, it will decay. You can't thrive in that environment. Okay. So hopefully that hasn't confused you, but we can come back to that.
No,
yeah. You know, maybe do some journaling on that. That might, yeah, but that's a pretty big question. So, okay, now moving right along. What else did I need to cover today? I'm like, what else did I need to cover?
You were going to tell us another story about somebody else.
Yeah. Look, I was going to share the story with one of my clients. This was one of my very first clients when I started doing this work, Tanya. And so she was a beautiful example of how clearing your trauma helps you get really clear on your purpose and your vision and your mission. Hers was a beautiful example, because when Tanya first came to me, I remember she rang me. I was sitting in the same spot. She rang me and she was like, do you know how to do the death, you know, the death process, you know, the grief process? And I said, yeah, sure, I can help you with that. I said, may I ask who's passed away? And she said, well, nobody's actually passed away. I'm grieving the life that I thought that I should have. Okay. Now, straight away, I know that that's not grief. That's actually depression, because depression is anytime you have a fantasy or an idealism inside your brain about the way life should be, and then you're looking at your reality and it doesn't match. To the degree that those two things are apart is to the degree that you will be experiencing depression. Okay, so what we've got to do is we've got to pull them back so that you can start seeing the blessings that are in your life and start seeing the drawbacks of the fantasy. Okay, so we catch up and I say, okay, well, tell me what's happened. She said, well, I'm almost 40. I just always thought that I was going to have a baby by now. You know, I'm almost 40. I've, you know, not that that's you know, a thing in itself, but she said, I've been with my partner for 15 years. He's made it really clear he doesn't want kids. And I also have a medical condition, which actually, even if I wanted to, it would make it near on impossible for me to you know, bear a child anyway. So, and I'm just devastated. She said, I set my alarm for an extra hour each morning before work, so that I've got enough time to cry and I get all that emotion out, and I just literally go to work numb each day. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, we need to, let's get cracking. So we got to work and we started to see, so she was working in the city, just like a clerical sort of admin job. She had some staff, she had about 15 staff under her. She's just going through the motions. This was not inspiring to her at all. And so we started to have a look at, you know, what was the fantasy? You know, the fantasy was that she'd have a family, that she'd have a baby. And the reality was that she's in a job that she hates. She's suffering from an illness that is, you know, like she's in pain every day, you know, like she had, what is it called? Not, oh God, what's it when the lining of your uterus has like all cysts all over it? What's that one? Polycystic endometriosis. Thank you, Tash. She had that, but she had it so bad that the doctors had actually scheduled her in for a hysterectomy. Okay, so that actually, I was like, what is that word? I'm like losing my words today. So her doctors had scheduled her in for a hysterectomy because the pain was just unbearable for her. So here she is, depressed that she can't have a baby, in pain, working in a job that she hates, and she's got this fantasy of how life would be. So we started to work on it slowly. We just started to, we don't tackle everything all at once, and I just started to ask her the questions of, okay, what's the benefit to your life right now? And what's the drawback to that fantasy? If you had that life right now, how would that be a drawback to you? And we started to just slowly bring it in. She shared with me that she actually thought that, she said, look, I studied psychology and I studied hypnosis, and I actually thought one day that I'd be helping people. I thought that I'd be helping my own children. That was kind of what I had a dream, and it sort of slipped by the wayside. And I said, well, look, that dream's still sitting there. Your life's not over. I said, what would it look like if you kind of started your own practice or did something like that? She said, yeah, that's definitely what I'm kind of working towards. So it's a goal that's realistic. She's actually done some things. It's manifesting. And I asked her the question of, like, if you had a client that was in crisis or a sick child, who would you prioritize? And she said, oh, the client every time. That would be, I'm being honest, that's what I would prioritize. I'd find a way to kind of delegate that out. And then we started to look, because nothing is ever lost or missing. Okay, the law of conservation is that nothing is ever lost or missing. It just changes form. Energy just is constantly changing form. The characters in your life are changing form. They go from the one to the many. Like when a mother role moves out of our life, notice how others step in and kind of fulfill those roles. Like things are just kind of moving all the time. The difference is that in our perception, we get so locked on to the way that things should be that we forget to see the beauty of what is actually happening. So I asked her, where are you already a mother? Let's actually have a look where you're already a mother. And she was like, oh, well, my staff at work, like I'm the one, I bake them cookies, and, they come and they tell me their problems and I help them out. And yeah, I'm definitely fulfill that sort of, mother role. I said, okay, where else? And she said, oh, my niece and nephew. And she's not just like an auntie that's like the fun auntie that comes in every now and then. She's doing school pickups, school drop-offs. She's attending sports carnivals when she can. She's having them for sleepovers. She was really involved. She was like a mother figure. And I was like, okay, well, what's the benefit to that? She said, well, I have a relationship with them that I don't think they have with their own mother. Okay. And who kind of knows that as an auntie? I know with my nieces and nephews, I have relationships with them that I know they don't have with their own mum, because there's kind of a safety in the auntie figure, isn't there? So she had that experience with her, with these beautiful kids. So we kind of went on and we started working on the perception of pain with her endometriosis. And by our third session, she said, yeah, I'm actually starting to go to the gym. And she said, oh, and by the way, I'm not waking up early anymore to go to cry for an hour. I can see how my current life is actually serving me. I can see where I'm already the mother. I'm the mother. And so that was kind of, relatively simple. She processed that one quite quick. So that was huge because, God, I can't even imagine how exhausting it would be having to go through that emotional turmoil just to get to work. So she was starting to, have a bit of bounce in her step and, see, like maybe things aren't as bad as what I thought. I'm back at the gym. And that was when she said, Donna, I've got something that I need to share with you. And I've always felt like this was a link. And this is part of why I studied psychology and hypnosis, but I just can't work out what that link is. And I said, well, look, yeah, please, please share it with me. I'll see how I can help you. And she said, well, Donna, this endometriosis, like back when I was, and she said, I think that there's a link here, but I don't know. Now, the mind and the body are connected. Our body is giving us feedback to let us know what area of our life that we haven't looked at. Okay, that's just how the body works. It's like it's playing charades with us. And she said, well, look, back when I was 18 months old, and she said, I can just remember it so vividly. I was 18 months old and I was having a nap in my bedroom. And my dad used to play cricket, and after cricket, often the club, that we'd go to different people's houses. And on this day, the cricket club, all the guys had come back to our place for drinks, and I can hear them in the background. And I knew that it was an afternoon sleep because I can actually see the light coming through the crack in the curtains. And then a man enters my room. And she said, I can't see the face. I just call him the man with the black belt because I remember that black belt. And in that moment, that man started to molest her. One of her dad's friends came into her bedroom. She's 18 months old. She's in a cot. She can't do anything. And in that moment, you know, something happens when we're put under intense trauma is often the mind splits. It's our way of, you know, our mind does that. To the degree that you're down there, your mind will do that. And in that moment, I was like, okay, you know, let's pull this back really slow, really small. When you're perceiving that, where's that for you? What's happening up there? And she said, well, do you know what? In that moment, I'm 18 months old. I mean, I don't even have that many memories from when I was 18 months old, but I can tell you she did. She was crystal clear. She said, in that moment, I got a really strong sense of like being connected to something spiritual. She said it almost feels like the presence of my grandmother, who I'm I was very close to, but had you know, passed away when I was a child. She said I felt her presence with me. I felt it. And I felt this really strong sense that I am not my body. How profound for an 18-month-old baby. She said, I had this profound, like, I'm not my body. And you can do that, but there's a part of me that you cannot touch. So she really recognized what her soul was and where her spirit was. And on that day, a sense of purpose really was ignited in her, although she wasn't aware of it, because she also had a 6-month-old brother at the time. Her and her brother are quite close in age. And from that day forward, Tanya was the fierce protector, because this shit was not happening on her watch, not to her brother. So I'd love to, I always think I'd love to meet him and see what his perception of his childhood was, because he probably had this sister that was always there making sure no one's touching my brother, no one's touching my brother. And then as he got older and when they were about 18, 19, and he sort of moved away, all of that transferred onto her niece and nephew. Okay, all that transferred, and she was the fierce protector of them. And so it was like, okay, so that's something that you know, that part of the puzzle became obvious, that you're here to protect people, that you're very spiritual, that you have access, you know, you have this awareness that you're not your body. And so she was like, okay, I'm starting to see that this isn't, you know, that she said that's, you know, I said, hey, there's lots of people that go through their whole life and they don't work out what their purpose is. Like, how amazing that you've accessed that at the age of, you know, 18 months. And she said, yeah. And then I said to her, we're sitting there, we're actually sitting in the city outside her office, like, and it's really busy. It's Friday peak hour and we're sitting there opposite each other. It was the only way we could get to each other that week. And I said to her, Tanya, now that I know this about you, what would be the ultimate way, and we know that you're the fierce protector, what would be the way to protect your unborn child? And oh my God, like, I still tear up when I tell this. She starts crying. I start crying. I don't even know what the answer is yet, but there was something about it. And she said, oh my God, it's to not have them in the first place. She said, that's the ultimate way for me to protect my children, was to never actually have them. And she went, this just makes so much sense. She looks at me and she says, I've done this to myself, haven't I? I was like, I don't know, but you know, this is your story, but is this making sense? And she was like, oh my God, this is like, this weight just lifted off her. I think she looked about 10 years younger at the end of that session. So we catch up the following week. And I'm like, okay, how's everything going? And she's like, well, I've quit my job that I hated. So that's done. I finish up next week. I'm like, wow. And she's like, and I've got a new job already. I'm like, great. So what are you doing? And she goes, well, I've got a job. I'm now going to be working for Child Protective Services. I was like, of course you are. And so now, instead of being the mother to one, she's now the mother to many. And she's the mother to those that don't actually have anyone to step in and care for them and love them the same way that she does. And when I ask her about it years later, she's still doing this job like 10 years later. She's like, it's the most fulfilling thing that I've ever had to do. Bloody hell, it's hard work. It's confronting, but I'm there for those kids. In the very next breath, she said, oh no, it was actually not long after that, she said, oh, I've also got a doctor's appointment because the pain's not there anymore. Funny, you know, isn't that amazing how the body works? She said the pain's not there anymore. And when she went to the doctors, they said, look, it's not aggressive anymore. Like, the inflammation has definitely gone down. And if you're not experiencing pain, you know, there's permanent damage that's been done because it was all knitted through her bowel and everything, like, you know, but they said the inflammation isn't what it used to be. And if you don't want to have a hysterectomy, you know, we're not going to make you here. And she's like, awesome. Okay, that's done. And so from that moment, from clearing that past trauma, I hope that you can now all see what's possible, that in your trauma often is where your purpose is ignited. But you've got to have the courage to step into it. So yeah, so that, you know, that's something that is possible. Because look, we all live in the illusion until we're ready for the truth. And so if that story has connected with any of you, I really do invite you to get in contact with me and find out about the upcoming course. Doing something like that isn't something that I would ever approach, you know, in a public forum like this. The upcoming course is a combination of calls like this, or group calls, where we cover a subject each week and give you the opportunity to delve into it. But it also comes with some one-on-one time where we can delve into those big things that need addressing and that really do require complete focus. So if any of you are interested, I would invite you, just flick me a message. Friend me on Facebook first and send it to my personal messenger would be the best thing, because with my business one, like, I get there's a lot of noise in there and sometimes I miss things. So even if you're on the replay right now, you know, the replays will be up for another few days until the end of the weekend. You know, I'm really kind of speechless every time after I tell that story. I think it kind of, you know, is pretty amazing when someone has the courage to step into their trauma the way that Tanya did, and come out with so many blessings. And even now, if you know, directly after the closing question that I always ask people is, what's getting in the way of you feeling grateful for that experience? And she says to me, I would not say this in a public forum because people would think that I'm crazy, but nothing. I wouldn't actually change that now. So what tremendous power that you've brought back, you know, what tremendous power, and how empowering that your past no longer has control over you. And that when John DeMartini talks about, you know, being a victim of your history or a master of your destiny, that's, you know, that's a perfect example. So thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate you, you know, being on these calls. We're only day 3. So we've still got 2 more calls. So that's awesome. Tomorrow we're going to look at how you can actually start to dissolve that emotional baggage that's holding you back and holding you in the past. So tomorrow is about past trauma. And the exercises that I'm going to share with you are practical to do things. I do them at the end of each day so that I'm not carrying yesterday's stuff into tomorrow. So it's going to be super practical stuff that you can start applying right away. And yeah, look, if there is any big stuff like that, often that does require, you know, more personalized attention, but you will be able to start using this tool straight away. I guarantee it. So tonight's challenge, write out your 3 goals, check them off. Are they any of those 3 fantasies? And post up your results into the group so we can all see, you know, and share any insights that you have. So before I start booking in Cherie and Nadia, does anyone have any insights or anything that they'd love to share about today before we go? No. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being on today's call. Normally I would hang up now. So for those that are on the replay, you know, you can do that now. And for everyone else, stay on the line if you do want to book in to just, you know, what we're going to do is we're literally going to book in a 10-minute call where we can pin and you guys have to do the homework here. You have to pinpoint what the belief is, or kind of have a bit of an idea of what's holding you back. And I'm going to help you identify it and process it using Site K. Okay. And it literally takes 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, if you guys have done the groundwork. Cherie, am I saying that right again, or is it Sherry? It's Sherry, isn't it?
Sherry.
Oh, damn it, I've been saying it wrong, sorry. Now, because I do have I know that I said that I'd do it after today's call, but because baby Millie is downstairs, I do want to get back to her. Can we book it in for tomorrow morning?
Certainly.
Would half an hour before the call starts, would that be okay with you?
So tomorrow night at 8:30 for me?
Yep.
PM?
Yep.
That would be fine.
Okay, perfect. And can you please friend me on Facebook, and I will send you a direct link?
I just did.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
I sent you a messenger too.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then 15 minutes before the call, Nadia, would you be okay to jump on then? Yeah, cool. Okay, and is there anyone else here that would like to take advantage of that? Yep, Roberta. Can we do straight after the call? Would that be okay tomorrow? Would you have to, what here, unmute, sorry, unmute yourself. I've never even met you before, and I'm just like, quick, well, you know, like, let's book it in. Hi, it's nice to meet you. How are you?
Good.
That's good. Whereabouts are you from?
I'm Margaret. I'm a friend of Beck's.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, so we're in the same time zone, so that's good. That's good. Would just before you and I are in the same time zone, is there anyone that's not in the same time zone as me that wants to book in a call? Okay, Wendy. Roberta, I'll come back to you in a sec. I'll just do that because they're all. Whereabouts are you, Wendy?
I live in Michigan, United States.
Okay, so what's the time there right now?
10 p.m.
10 p.m. Okay, so you're 11 hours behind us. It's starting to get late for you. Would you like to book in? I'll probably need to do you earlier. What about if we did it 45 minutes before tomorrow's call?
Okay.
Would that be okay? Now that means I've got you guys like really tight back to back here, 15 minutes. So jump on the call, know what your limiting belief is, and we're going to jump straight into it, okay? And then if I need to tidy anything up with you, I'll always make time for you guys. It's just, yeah, or the other thing is I can always meet you on my Saturday morning, which would be your Friday night. Who's going out partying on Friday night out of you three? Anyone? Okay, because we can always do that as well. We can always do that. Would that suit anyone better?
I can do Friday night.
Okay. Well,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's okay.
Nadia.
It doesn't matter for me.
Okay. Well, why don't we book you in? Why don't we keep Nadia? We'll do you. We'll do you my Saturday morning, which is what's your time difference, Nadia?
Well, what time were you starting these things today? Is it your 9 a.m. or something?
It's 10 a.m. for me.
Okay, and it's 6 p.m. for me.
Yeah. What about if you and I just meet an hour before tomorrow's call? How does that sound?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So 9 a.m. tomorrow is Nadia.
5 p.m. my time. Okay.
Yeah. And then Sherry will do half an hour before for you.
Okay.
And then Roberta, we can do straight after the call if you'd like.
So that would be like 11.
Is that too late for you? Have you got work? Yep.
No,
okay.
not working tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. Roberta, so 11 a.m. And then Wendy, we can do your Friday night, which is my Saturday morning. What time did you say it is for you right now?
10.
10. Okay, I'm 11. Okay, so that means if we do your 8 p.m. Friday night, does that work?
Sure.
God, I hope I've got that right. I hope I'm like, so your 8 p.m. will be not my 9 a.m. Saturday.
No, an hour before the call.
Yep. An hour before the call. Okay, awesome. Please friend me. And what I will do is I'll send you through a Zoom link sort of just as we're starting. So just keep an eye on your messenger.
Is it the same Zoom link? No,
I'll send you, I'll send you a separate link, because the last thing I want is if we run a minute or if people jump on early that they're like in the middle of us. So I'll send you a separate link. Yep. Okay.
Can I ask one question? This course that you're doing for the 10 weeks,
yeah.
What's the cost on that?
Okay, so the cost on that is 2,000 Australian. Okay, so I don't know what the exchange rate is. I think that's probably about 1,500 US. Yeah. Now the other thing, now in with that as well, so that's 10 weeks of group calls each week like this. You also get 2 one-on-one sessions, but there's also, I'm adding in as a bonus, you also get a journaling course that's worth $300, and you also get a bonus session with me that doesn't have a time limit, where we drill down and get your core value. Yeah, so we do your core value. So really you're getting 3 sessions, a journaling course, and the 10 weeks. Yeah, so. I'll post up some information about what we actually cover. Yeah. For anyone that's been, actually everyone that's been on that course, tomorrow morning, there's some people that keep showing up, like Tash, who's done it a few times, and I'll get them to share what their experience has been. Yeah, so actually Beck hasn't done it either. So yeah, I'll get them to share their experience so that you can hear firsthand. But essentially during that time, I am 100% committed to whatever your intention was and whatever challenges you needed to resolve. I do whatever it takes to get you out the other side. As long as you're committed, I don't want you just to, have a one-sided fantasy, not show up, for example. I've had people do that before, not show up and wondered why they didn't get a result. I was like, not a magician. So yeah, so I will match your commitment level. That's my promise to you. Absolutely. Okay, so thank you all for being here for today. Wonderful call today. Any other questions that anyone has? Or no? Okay, awesome. All right, well, you all take care, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye.
Have a good night.
You too. See ya.